That is a segue into us now talking about the two main components of aiming. We'll start with sight alignment. Sight alignment basically describes how we are aligning or orienting the front sight in the rear sight notch. There's an adage known as equal height and equal light. That's a way of describing that when we are lining up the front sight post in the rear sight notch, that we want to have the top of the front sight blade level with the rear sights, and we also want to have the front sight blade centered left and right or horizontally within that notch. So we're focusing on that front sight. It should be nice and crisp, as we've already discussed. We're hyper-focused at the focal length of the front sight. Our rear sight will be just a little bit fuzzy, and we want to make sure that the front sight post is centered up, down, left, and right within that rear sight notch. Any errors with your front sight alignment will coincide with the point of impact of your round, meaning that if the front sight is just a little bit elevated, a little bit too high within that rear sight notch, then your round is going to impact a little bit high. Conversely, if the front sight is dipped a little bit too low in the rear sight notch, then the round will impact a little bit low. If it is low in left, then your round will impact low in left. Also understand that these errors are going to magnify over distance. If the angular deviation stays constant, if you're grouping, say, just an inch to the left at 3 yards, then when you go to 7 yards, now you've a little bit more than doubled the distance, you're likely going to be grouping about 2 inches to the left. If you double that again, and now we're shooting at 15 yards, we're likely going to be hitting about 4 inches to the left. So understand that any misalignment with our sights will compound with distance. Now, the converse of this is also true. The closer we are to the target, the more forgiving or the less that deviation is going to be on your target. So later on, when we're discussing more defensive type skills, we'll introduce the concept of a flash sight picture, because at a certain distance, it really is immaterial. As long as you have your front sight on the target, you will hit within an acceptable margin of error for that type of accuracy. Most defensive handguns these days come equipped from the factory with dots on the sight. You have a single dot on the front sight and then a dot on each side of the rear sight. These are particularly helpful if they have a tritium insert, meaning they'll glow in the dark, so that you can still align the sights properly even when you don't have enough ambient light to be able to pick up clearly your front and rear sights. Now, you still have the challenge of positively IDing your target before you engage it, but that is a separate issue. You will still be able to line those sights up if you have to, even in pitch darkness. So that is sight alignment. Now let's pivot into the second component of aiming, of sight picture. Once we have our sights aligned properly, so that they're equal height, equal light, or whatever adage you're going to use, sight picture refers to how are we going to place those aligned sights onto the target so that we hit our desired point of aim. Depending on what type of shooting you're doing, there are different types of holds you can use, but predominantly what is used is the center hold. Simply stated, you're going to focus on the center of your target, and you're going to put your front sight blade level into the center of your bullseye, your X-ring, whatever it is that is the center of your target. That's where you're going to put the top of your front side blade at. Now, it's key to also discuss that from the factory, most handguns are designed to be shot at 25 yards, meaning that the sights, when properly aligned, will match the trajectory of the round at 25 yards. When we're shooting at up close distances, say between 3 and 10 or 15 yards, it is helpful if you have dots on your sights to, instead of putting your front sight blade at that center hold, you're going to use the dot of your front sight, and you're going to place your front sight dot directly on top of your desired point of impact. So by placing the front sight dot on your desired point of impact, what you're doing is accommodating for the rising branch of the trajectory of the bullet. So with that rising branch of the trajectory, basically what you need to understand is that if you are aligning the sights and using the top of your front sight and putting a center hold directly what you want to hit, and you're, say, at 3 or 5 yards, and you're grouping tightly but a little bit low, it's probably not you. It's just the trajectory of the round has not reached and crossed the line of sight of what you're actually aiming at. So if you use the front sight dot and put that right on top of your desired point of impact when we're shooting at extreme close distances of, say, 3, 5, 7 yards, that will help to offset that trajectory a little bit and get you closer to what you're actually aiming at. It should become very intuitive, and in short order, you shouldn't have to be applying much conscious thought to aligning the sights and where you put those sights on your target to achieve that desired point of aim, especially if we're shooting up close and personal. The challenge comes in maintaining that proper sight alignment and sight picture as we are solidly applying the remaining of the 4 fundamentals. We don't want to deviate that sight alignment as the shot breaks. If you have any lingering questions on the fundamental of aiming or any of the topics that were covered in this video, then make sure you throw that into the discussion. If you're finding this educational series helpful, it would be helpful to me if you make sure you are subscribed and share this video with others in your peer group. Help spread the word. And as always, God bless you and stay safe.